All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. This is one of the pit stops that we are doing in Houston at the NRA Annual Meetings 2026. And we are on the Voices of the Second Amendment Radio Row, and there are a ton of podcasters that are here doing shows and creating content. And I have I have my booth mate, actually. I have Alex Ooley from the Forge of Freedom podcast. So, dude, it is good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Charlie. I mean, this is one of the few times that we see each other each year. It's not virtual. Yeah,
right.
Right.
We used to spend do a lot more shows with the Polite Society podcast.
Yeah, Paul
on the Daily Bullets and
glad
stuff.
to see he's getting back into it.
Yeah. It's good stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Glad he's getting back into it too. All right, so let's talk about you and all the stuff you do. You how did you become a gun guy? You grew up in.
I grew up in Southern Indiana.
Southern Indiana,
Yeah,
okay.
my dad and my mother were both in the military, and my dad, I think, recognized that the firearms training, at least the handgun training that he got in the military, was woefully inadequate. Very few people learned to use a sidearm, at least for self-defense, in the military. So when he made that recognition, I was, I was about 20 years old.
Yeah.
And we decided to go get some training together as a family, and
that's
cool.
where
it all started.
Yeah, it's always interesting you're an instructor too, right?
I am.
It's always interesting when I hear people that want to talk about other instructors. They're like, "Oh, he was in the military. He knows what he's talking about." Mm-hmm. And I'm always like, "Okay,
maybe,
right."
They often train with rifles. Very rarely with handguns, unless you're in special operations type units.
Right.
And so we went and got some self-defense training, and there's, as you know, there's a wide range of quality in training as well. So we listened to Tom Gresham a lot from Gun Talk at the time, yeah. And Tiger McKee was one of the regular guests. He was the author of the Book of Two Guns, talking about the AR-15 and the 1911 handgun specifically, but a lot of the same principles apply to all handguns, not just the 1911. So we decided to go get some in-person training with Tiger McKee in Alabama at the time. He's since passed. Unfortunately, he was a great rider and instructor. He was a protege of Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch. And so we went down there on multiple occasions and really just kind of got the training bug. And just that led to one thing led to another. We met, we were acquainted with Mossad Ayub and the Armed Citizens Defense Network through Tiger, and met Marty Hayes and Mossad Ayub, and you know how it goes. Once you get into the gun training world, you sort of snowball.
You go through everybody.
You go through everybody. Yeah. So that's where it all started. It would have been back around 2010.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool, man. That's quite a while ago too.
Yeah.
What do you have to do? You live in Indiana. Indiana's a permitless carry state.
It is.
What was it like before? And did going to permitless carry? Did it affect any of the training biz that you guys do?
Yeah, well, our busiest years were the Obama years. There was significant demand for training in Indiana during the Obama years. There was never, even when Indiana required a license to carry a handgun to carry concealed in public, there was no training requirement. There was never a training requirement.
It's just money.
Yeah, exactly. So you just pay a fee. But nevertheless, that was good and bad. I think the people who sought out training were genuinely interested in being there and were, in fact, good students. So the good thing about being an instructor in Indiana was that usually you had people who actually wanted to be there. They weren't there just to jump through the hoops to get their license.
Mandated training.
Yeah. So since permitless carry, there's not been a huge effect right now. I think people have less interest in training during the Trump years. There's sort of the Trump slump repeating again.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But nevertheless, there's still some interest in training. Obviously, still no training requirement in Indiana, no license requirement at all. But there's also been no blood on the streets like so many of the media outlets would love to have you believe.
We're going to have blood in the streets when there's permitless carry. People are going to be carrying guns.
Right. We tried for a number of years in Indiana. In Indiana,
you tried getting the blood in the streets? And
no,
it
just didn't work. Yeah. No, we tried for a number of years to pass constitutional carry or permitless carry in Indiana. But despite having a Republican supermajority in the Indiana House and Senate, there were a number of what many would call rhinos, Republicans in name only, who would kill the legislation through backdoor committee processes. So they would never have to vote, to put out a public vote against the legislation.
Wow.
Finally made it over that hurdle a few years ago and got constitutional carry in Indiana. Indiana is actually a great state in terms of the protections for the right to keep and bear arms, with the exception, I would say one exception now, we still have a red flag law. We were actually, I think, the second state to implement a red flag law.
Really?
Yes. There was a tragic situation. It's called the Jake Laird Law in Indiana. It's the red flag law, the emergency risk protection order, where a police officer was shot. And that bad facts often leads to bad law. And that's what happened there. It was an emotional response, and Indiana adopted a red flag law. So it's not one of the worst versions of the red flag laws. It's actually got many due process protections in it, but like any red flag law, the due process comes after the seizure of the firearm.
Oh, right.
So it's due process in reverse.
Yeah, we're going to take your guns and then figure out if it's okay for you to have them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nuts. What kind of classes did you offer? This is something that we're going through in Massachusetts. We had we're going through a bunch of nonsense in Massachusetts, but it is what it is. And when I had the opportunity to submit a curriculum to the state, I was like, what do I have to? What do I need to do? And how do you not copy someone else's curriculum?
Right. So we were doing a lot of training with Tiger McKee, as I mentioned earlier, but we also got our instructor certification through the NRA. So
Okay.
we were all NRA certified. My dad, my mom, my brother,
Your
and I.
mom too.
All
Oh my
of us.
God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we taught as a family for quite a while, and my brother also has a significant amount of expertise in AR-15s. So
He was in the military.
he was in the military, as a matter of fact, but that's not where he got his expertise. He went to Rogers shooting School in Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
and they teach a ton of special forces units on
That's cool.
on not just AR-15s but other
Right. A little bit of
firearms
everything.
as well. So we offered sort of the gamut of the NRA offerings. So primarily so that we didn't have to come up with our own curriculum, because we didn't want to have to defend the curriculum. If any of our students were ever involved in a self-defense shooting or some other situation, we wanted to be able to say, this is what we taught. This is what we covered.
Yeah.
And the other part of that was that the NRA curriculum, the certificate, was recognized by a number of states that did have a training requirement. So we live in southern Indiana, close to Kentucky. At the time, the NRA certificate would satisfy the Kentucky training
too, right.
training requirement. So we had a number of Kentucky students who would come take the class to get their license in Kentucky.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that was our reason for kind of going with the NRA curriculum, and we taught the NRA basic classes, the personal protection inside the home, outside the home, defensive pistol, all those classes.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great, man. That is cool. Do you do any of the USCCA classes?
I don't.
No.
And I've heard great things about the USCCA curriculum. I've just never done both. I didn't see a reason to have both certificates.
Right. Yeah.
But USCCA I know has a huge membership base and lots of followers, and so I think they provide for a while there. The NRA, they tried to go to this hybrid system with their curriculum, and I think lost a lot of interest in their training programs.
When they did the blended learning?
When they did the blended.
Yeah, the blended. Well, I mean, the thing with the blended learning is that you're going to sit at home. The potential student is going to do 4 hours of class, and then they're going to come to me, and I don't. Even though they've covered everything, I've done online classes too.
Yes, yeah. You had to reteach it. A lot of it.
You really do. Like, it's back to square one, and be like, all right, listen. Even though we're supposed to be, an additional 3 or 4 hours, we now have to go back through the first 4 hours because you didn't quite understand everything. So
I saw an uptick in interest in the USCCA stuff during that period of time.
Yeah.
Before the NRA, went back to the traditional in-person learning.
In-person stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So.
In Massachusetts, we have certain classes that are approved courses, and USCCA class has never been one of them.
Okay.
So when I became an instructor, it was I did the basic pistol instructor, but I swear to God, the guy's like, we're going to throw in home firearm safety as well. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Yeah. And then so I can do those, and I got more after that. But I became a USCCA instructor a few years ago because it was I guess the idea was that I would find more ways to teach classes to people.
Yeah, more ways to reach people.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And when people say, "All right, well, I've got a license to carry, and I've done the NRA class, whatever. I got my certificate. What do I need to do now?" And you're like, "Oh, we got to find something for you to do." So
I would probably do that if firearms training were more of my full-time job.
Sure,
right?
Yeah.
But it's very part-time for us. My full-time job is an attorney, and so training is sort of a side.
It's a little side thing. Yeah. Absolutely.
We do it mostly as a public service, not as a income source.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did it as oh man, I became an instructor so I could play guns and get out of the house and get away from the wife and kids and go shooting, right? Yeah. Had a legitimate reason and all that. I had to go do the whole cost analysis thing and break even them out and say, listen, honey, if I spend this much money to become an instructor, then I can have this much money, and then after that I get to make money and all that kind of crap.
And it's a way to stay up to date on your own skills too, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So it's pretty cool. So what kind of what got you to be an attorney? Your father's an attorney.
He's an attorney as well. Yeah,
he's not here this weekend.
He's not. No, he was planning to come down here, but decided not to this year. I know he'll be in Atlanta next year.
Gotcha.
That's closer for us. He can drive pretty easily. He hates to fly. I do too, but it was worth it to get down here this weekend. So he'll be in Atlanta next year. He's an attorney. He's been an attorney since 1993.
Yeah.
He did a lot of civil work for a while. I decided to go to law school in 2014, graduated in 2017. I've been practicing since then. I've been doing criminal defense work since 2018. And that's
you're like Saul Goodman.
I do. I get a lot of flack from my coworkers because I've actually seen very few movies, but I have watched Breaking Bad.
I love Breaking Bad. It was TV meth.
And Better Call Saul. Yeah,
it was absolute TV meth.
Yeah.
I would watch like 3 or 4 episodes, stay up till about 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, all right, I got to get up in 4 hours.
Yeah. Ironically, I watched it during law school. That was my.
Oh my gosh.
That was like sort of my my weekend. Vice was to watch that show.
That's cool.
Yeah. So so I graduated from law school, started practicing in 2017. Criminal defense started 2018. That's been the bulk of my practice since then, focusing on self-defense as part of that, obviously, and have done a lot of training with Mossad Ayoub. Went to Mag 40, Deadly Force instructor. Was an affiliate with Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network before they were bought out by CCW Safe.
Yeah.
And now I write a regular column for Gun Digest.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, called Drawing Conclusions. It's a monthly.
Conclusions?
Yeah.
Look at that. I love it.
Yeah. So, I stay busy with my my work in the Second Amendment space, and then
cool.
Obviously I have the Forge of Freedom podcast as well.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second. Any good, cool, fun, juicy story cases that you've been on?
Oh, yeah. Shoot, I don't know where to start. There's there are quite a few. Actually, one of the more interesting ones. It's not a sexy case by any stretch, but I represented a gentleman who was disabled, and he kept a pepper ball gun with him on his motorized scooter, and he would travel 2 miles to the grocery store with his motorized scooter to get groceries. So 4 miles round trip, and on his way back from the grocery store one day, a neighbor's dog was aggressive toward him, ran out of the yard toward him on his scooter, and he pulled out his pepper ball gun and pepper ball gunned the guy's dog.
No way.
Well, the problem that he had was that he had the pepper ball gun was orange, but he'd spray painted it black.
Oh no!
And so the dog owner
thought it was a real gun.
Thought it was a real gun, supposedly.
Allegedly.
And called the police, and my client was arrested because he thought the dog owner thought that he not only had threatened the dog, but had threatened the dog owner with the gun.
Yeah.
Because he said something like, "You better get your dog back or else," or something like that. And I don't remember the fact. This has been a few years ago. but he faced what's called a level 5 felony in Indiana, which carries 1 to 6 years for that.
Wow.
We were able to work it out and get it dismissed ultimately.
Yeah.
But that just shows you how serious, it is carrying a firearm or something that looks like a firearm. And so I think that's a lesson that, a lot of people don't realize is even less lethal options like a pepper ball gun can get you into a legal quandary.
Yeah. I mean, people say all the time, you got to have a less lethal option. And, it can still it can still jam you up.
Yeah.
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 For sure.
There was another one where a guy had threatened, and this was not my client. I actually represented the person who was threatened because they were both charged, actually. So my client was the alleged victim, but also a defendant. But the man pulled out a gun, threatened my client, pointed a gun at him. It was a revolver. Went click, click, it didn't fire. Toward his head. Pointed down at the ground to see why it wasn't working. Pressed it again, and it fired.
Whoa.
And luckily, by that time, my client had been able to get away. But they had, yeah. So my client was almost murdered in that moment.
Oh my God! So this is one of the things. Like, the person that was shooting at your client intended to murder him, even if, like, in one of the classes with the USCCA, they talk about death does not have to be the outcome.
No.
But he could have been tried for murder.
Attempted
murder, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that was actually more recent, that case. That was about 6 months ago.
That's pretty exciting, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Pretty exciting in the overall.
Yeah, and then you have, your more, sort of classic self-defense scenarios, which typically, if everything goes right and you're able to talk to the prosecutors, don't get charged. Luckily, I live in a relatively conservative area, and so prosecutors are not jumping up and down to try to charge people just because they're gun owners. They're fairly friendly to self-defense and to firearms ownership.
Yeah.
So
well, that's good.
Usually, legitimate self-defense claims don't get prosecuted. That's a good thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. So how does all this lead to the Forge of Freedom podcast?
Yeah. So when we trained with Tiger McKee, we were acquainted with Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network, met Marty Hayes and Gila through that, and they had Paul Lathrop at the 2019 NRA annual meeting in Indianapolis. And they were looking for guests, and we volunteered as a guest on his show at the time, the Polite Society podcast from the NRA annual meeting in Indy. And we met Paul, and from that, Paul invited me to come on his show on a number of occasions through the Polite Society podcast and later the Bullet through the Second Amendment Foundation. And so that's how I got acquainted with podcasting. I was a guest on his show on a number of occasions. And I decided I wanted to talk about guns, but I wanted to talk about more than just guns. I wanted to talk about freedom more broadly. And most of us believe that we don't get our rights from the government. The government, at least in theory, is supposed to protect our rights. And so the idea behind the name, the Forge of Freedom, is that freedom is gained and preserved from the bottom up, not from the top down, through the action of individuals.
Right.
And so it's forged through our own actions and efforts. And it's not something that we just have. It's something that you have to preserve through effort, through friction, through, hard-earned, liberty. So that's the idea behind the name, the Forge of Freedom, is that we are all, we all have responsibilities. We all, if we want to preserve our liberties, have to fight to preserve those liberties.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I talk about things ranging from not only firearms, but speech and family and faith and all sorts of topics on the Forge of Freedom.
Yeah, it's there's a variety, because sometimes you do short shows and sometimes they're a little bit longer.
Yeah, I do. If they're a solo, it's typically shorter. So if it's just me, it's typically shorter. If I have a guest, they're typically 45 minutes to an hour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like to I like to invite people to have a pretty in-depth conversation, and I find that at least maybe I'm not skilled enough, but I can't do that in less than 30 minutes typically. So I like to have at least a 45-minute conversation when I invite people on the show.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Who are some of your faves that you've had on?
One of my favorites, his name is Lawrence Reed. He goes by Larry. He is president emeritus of the of FEE, which is the Foundation for Economic Education out of Atlanta. He was on my podcast a number of times, but to discuss one of his books about how to preserve liberty. And he is the man behind what's called the Blinking Lights Project, which is an interesting story. He was in Poland before the fall of the Berlin Wall and before the fall of the Soviet Union. And he was part of this effort to try to spread the message of resistance and liberty. And they had this underground radio project where they would have equipment much like what you have here and broadcast to the local area through radio. And what they would do is they would say, let us know you're hearing this message by blinking your lights. And so that was a sign of resistance. So they would broadcast their show. People would blink their lights. They'd break down their equipment, and they'd have to broadcast from different areas around the city to avoid detection. And every night there were more and more blinking lights. And eventually he was arrested and incarcerated in Poland for his efforts. But it was a major effort for freedom.
Unbelievable.
And he was recently, I'm blanking on the name of the award, but it's the highest honor that you can receive in Poland. Mm-hmm. And he recently received that award a couple of years ago. So it talked about his books and his experience in the Soviet Union and his efforts to resist socialism.
That's wild. It's I live in occupied territory. And it's funny to me to see these people that put up signs in their yards that say resist or, defend democracy and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you people really don't believe in resisting.
No.
You want to resist what you don't like, but you're more than willing to bend over and kowtow to the people that believe what you want to believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very few people, when push comes to shove, are willing to sacrifice their time at home, their Netflix, their iPhones, their comforts, their creature comforts. But Lawrence Reed and a number of his friends were ultimately incarcerated for it. But obviously affected many, many people.
Yeah, it's wild to think about speaking up and getting a message out, and then having to go to jail for that.
And to do it underground and to move to avoid detection. That's just sort of incomprehensible that I like to think that I have that sort of courage or bravery. But I don't know if I could do it if I were faced with that.
Right. Like, this is the whole thing. I remember listening to some folks, and they're talking about arguing and the Second Amendment and everything. And they're like, so when is the time to actually do something? Yeah. Right. Like, again, I live in occupied territory. I'm like, tarring and feathering doesn't kill people. It's just very uncomfortable.
That's right.
So where do we get the tar? Where do we get the feathers? Like, let's get on with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of my favorite conversations. He's a really interesting person. Great. I mean, he's a great economic mind, a great philosophical, historic. I mean, he's got just such a wealth of knowledge. But he's also got a wealth of experience to back it up. So a really interesting conversation. Another one that a lot of people don't know, but it's an excellent book, and it's a quick read. Jacob Hornberger, he is behind the FFF.org, which is the Future of Freedom Foundation. And he wrote a book called The Tyranny of Gun Control. And it's an excellent book. I think one of the better books on the sort of the philosophical foundations of the Second Amendment. And actually, I think kind of an under the radar book in the Second Amendment world. So that was a great conversation as well.
All right, I'm
Jacob Hornberger.
I love buying books.
Yeah,
I have a hard time reading them.
Yeah. Well, at least listen to the conversation. You'll get a lot of it.
I'll get the gist.
Yeah, you'll get the gist.
I'll get the Cliff's Notes, right?
That's right.
Oh my God, that's too funny. Yeah. All right, well, listen, we need to start wrapping it up here. How can people find the Forge of Freedom and all the stuff that you're up to?
Sure. So we post our episodes on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and all the popular podcast streaming platforms. We also have a website, forgeoffreedom.com, and are active on X at Forge of Freedom. You can find out, pretty much what we're up to by following those sources.
That's cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to put some links to that. I want to thank you very much for being on the show. This has been a pleasure. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm honored to have you on. I hope that the show goes well for you.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to like getting a bunch of content.
Yeah.
I put these out. I do put the shows out, but I call them pit stops rather than a whole riding shotgun episode.
Right.
So,
right. Well, I look forward to getting you on the Forge of Freedom as well. I didn't even talk about having you on here because I know you're busy
it's
here.
It's nuts
at the NRA annual meeting. You're packed wall to wall. I know. So
I know, and I'm trying to find somebody that's got an open booth where I can do some shows while you're here. So the work never ends.
That's right.
It's all good stuff.
All right.
Well, listen, we thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the show. If you have listened to the show, please share it with your friends because that is how we get the Stagecoach across America. We're going to have links to Alex and the Forge of Freedom, and we thank you guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.